We are here with Margo Arceri in the St. George's Manor Cemetery to talk about Kate Wheeler Strong. Margo, tell us about how you knew Miss Kate Strong.
I actually met Miss Kate when I was 7 years old. Myself and another Strong descendant, Raymond Brewster Strong III. We used to go visit Cousin Kate, and we'd trek through the woods of Strong's Neck, and we'd end up at her house, the Cedars, which is an historic 3-story home built by her father. And we'd creep up the peeling steps and go up the staircase, and we'd sit in her room, and she would tell us stories of long ago. She had a parrot in the corner of the room, and we'd sit next to her on her bed. Kate was probably about 96 years old then. She was blind. She was actually blind the last 40 years of her life. And she would tell us, stories of Setauket and days gone by. And that's really where I got my love of history, and sort of fell in love with Kate's true tales ever since.
Kate was an author. What did she write about?
Kate's chief interest over the years was local and family history. She wrote extensively. Most of her articles were being based on family papers and information she gathered from older residents. Her writings were published in the Long Island Forum under the heading True Tales from the Early Days of Long Island. Even after she lost her sight, she persisted. She began her True Tales in 1940 and wrote between 3 to 12 articles every year through 1976. Here, she speaks in her own words. Histories had always been like storybooks to me, only better because the people in them were real, and one might meet them again in some other book.
Was Kate well known around Setauket?
Oh, Kate was always seen about town in her horse and carriage, as she detested the foul-smelling, loud cars most people drove. In winter, she would travel by sleigh, and she told the story of her last independent sleigh ride due to her failing eyesight. I do not know which of us enjoyed the ride more, me or my little horse, Freckles. I do not remember just where I went, but I do remember picking up the mail, and the sleighing was just perfect all the way home. Kate also conducted a series of story hours for children at the Emma Clark Library. For the younger group, up to 8 years, she told a number of unusual and not often heard fairy tales. The older group, 8 to 12, were told stories of the Indians in the early days of Setauket.
Is everyone buried in St. George's Manor Cemetery related to each other?
Kate organized a stamp club at the Stony Brook School for Boys, now the Stony Brook School. There she met a young English boy, John Michael Fanstone. Sadly, he fell sick and died. It was during World War II when it was impossible to send him home for burial, so Kate arranged to have him buried in the Smith-Strong family cemetery on Strong's Neck. After the war, his father came from England, intending to move his body back home. However, the beauty and tranquility of the cemetery location inspired his family to leave their son here. He is the only person in the cemetery not related to the Smith-Strong family by blood or marriage. Here is his gravesite.
You mentioned that Kate wrote her true tales based on family papers. What happened to them after she died?
When Kate died in 1977, her personal papers and the papers of her father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-great-grandfather were donated to the Three Village Historical Society. The Strong collection contains over 3,000 papers dating from 1703 to 1977.
Margo, would you like to read one of Kate Strong's true tales for us?
I would love to. The true tale I'm going to read today is one of my favorites, Old Roads and a Romance by Kate Wheeler Strong. The names of some old roads have always interested and often mystified me. Tales, for instance, Mud Road, on which there is plenty of sand but little mud. Yet there is a reason for the name. Over its winding way, the early settlers of Setauket carted mud from the Sound shore to enrich their fields. East of Port Jefferson is Canal Road, but no canal within some miles. How come? Town historian Osborne Shaw helped me with that one. The road was first called canal, a French word given to the third bolting of flour in old gristmills. There were 5 boltings, namely first flour, second flour, canal, middles, and bran. Canal made the delicious brown bread. Mixed with cornmeal, it made good pancakes. We also made a cereal from it, on which, eaten with brown sugar and cream, we youngsters thrived on. But the greatest puzzle of all was Whiskey Road, until Mr. Shaw again came to the rescue. He explained that laid out and recorded in 1753, the west part of the road ran near Jonathan Edwards, as the convenience of ye land will admit, to the northwest corner of Stephen Sweezy's cleared lot. Here, a number of years it ended until a Randall youth and a Sweezy maiden chanced to fall in love. The way between their farms were long and hard. Going cross lots was much shorter, with the woods between the catbrier were difficult, and no young man wanted to go a courting with his clothes torn and his face scratched. So it seems young Randall begged his father to start a movement to have the unfinished road completed between the 2 farms. In turn, Randall Sr. drew up a petition which the neighbors gladly signed on behalf of Cupid. The town fathers caught the romantic spirit as well and granted the petition, and in May 1796, the road commissioners laid out the thoroughfare from Mr. Sweezy's gate unto Mr. Stephen Randall's, and to a pine tree eastward to Jeremiah's house, and so to the Wading River Road. But in those days, it was not easy to get men to work on such a job. Pay was low, and the work was hard, with trees to fell and stumps to pull, and the underbrush to clear. In this instance, however, young Randall again showed his ingenuity. It was probably his idea that prompted a very unique scheme to get things going. A rod ahead of the workmen was placed a jug, some say a cask, of whiskey. When the road was cleared that far, all the hands had a drink, some say more than one. Then the jug or cask was moved ahead of another rod, and as the work progressed, rod by rod, its course became more crooked, for it followed the path of him who advanced the liquid refreshment, and he too was inhibiting freely thereof. So crooked, in fact, was this part of the road that 3 years later the town took some of the worst kinks out of it. Young Randall, however, cared little for the kinks as he went a calling, nor did he mind that his horse's shoes struck sparks in the strip of the pebbly beach that somehow had been transplanted to one part of the road from the Sound shore. I do not know whether or not his suit was successful. History does not tell us, but that strange name of long ago still clings to Whiskey Road to remind us that at all times, love will find a way.
We hope you enjoyed the second storytelling from the bench. The Three Village Historical Society thanks you for joining us.